Hey everyone, this is Todd. Getting ready to ship a couple of systems, G2s. Wanted to run everybody through it real quick. This is a complete system. This is what the customer is going to receive. It's 3 boxes. This guy's your pressure washer. It requires a little bit of assembly. That's what it'll look like when you're done. Let's see, this guy right here is your base for the barrel. There, and your hose, and I'm going to use this hose as a demonstration when I set this thing up, so I'll pull it out. This is your system. When you open it up, everything's included in it. You've got a handheld TDS meter, a couple of wrenches, one for the RO membrane, one for the polish treatment and TDS cartridges. This is your polish treatment system. It does not come loaded in the tank. It will be inside the box. Just pull it out, set it aside. Okay. So this is one of my stands I'm going to use real quick. Show you what's going on. So when you pull the container out of the box, the lids are secured with screws, and the reason we want to do that is to completely seal the container. You don't want any contaminants getting in there. So we're going to take those out real quick. I'm going to use a power driver. You don't want to use a power tool to put them back in, obviously. You're just going into plastic. So I'm going to pull these out real quick and show you what we got inside. So this is your treatment system. We're all set up, ready to go. I'll show you that in a second. When you get this thing, excuse me, put it on the stand. Make sure your valves close. They come closed. The valves here on the side of the tank come preset. You've got 2 valves and 1 line that's got a connection for your water spigot. Hook that up. Take your RO line, your reject, and just untangle it and throw it on the lawn. I run mine into a vent tube that I've got into my sewer system in the garage. I keep my system right here in the garage, by the way. I use it year round. Anyway, so find an area for your reject water. Plug this into your garden hose and turn on your hose, and that's it. So once I've got the hose turned on, I'm just going to let this thing fill, and let it fill for a couple of hours or all day. It doesn't matter. You don't want to put the polish treatment cartridge in until you've run water through the RO unit, and the reason is there's a preservative on the RO membrane that we want to clear before we expose the polish treatment system to the water. So let's say we did that. Let's say we get a quarter to a half of a tank, we're ready to install the polish treatment system. So so this is the RO, the smaller one. The larger one is for your polish and particulate matter filters. You can see here, there's 2 of them in here. One's clear, one's solid white. The solid white on the right side is your polish treatment system. So typically mine are hand tight when they come to the customer when you receive it. You don't even need to turn off the water to do this. So I'm just going to take that off. When you do, it's going to be full of water, so be a little bit careful there. And it will be empty. So there's an O-ring on the top of this canister, and it was actually stuck in there this time. You want to make sure it's a double O-ring system, so you want to make sure both O-rings are on there. And as you can see on the interior of this, there's a lip there for your polish cartridge. So what you want to do, there's the polish cartridge that comes with your system. Just take off the plastic wrapping, and there's the bottom of it. And you just want to make sure that that slot in the cartridge fits into the slot in your canister, and you're good. It's really simple. Then what I'm going to do is just screw that back on. Of course, when you pull this out, you're going to dump the water out of it before you put your polish in there, and then just throw it back on there. Now, if you want to, that quarter, half barrel or whatever, you can go ahead and dump it once you install the polish cartridge, get rid of it. If you've got a full container, you definitely want to dump it. To be honest with you, if you've got a half container, you put the polish in, you start washing cars, it's not going to be the quality of water that I want, but it's going to probably be the best water you've ever had. So anyway, once we get that in, just seal it back up and let it run. So I'm just going to use, we got her filling up, and I'll put these back in by hand. You're going to want to wash some cars, use a couple of barrels before you start messing with the back pressure valve. And the back pressure valve, all that is how much pressure you've got on your RO membrane, and it's really simple. The more back pressure you have, the higher the TDS is going to be, and they come with virtually zero back pressure when you plug it in and get it started. And after you run a couple of barrels, you can start dialing that back, and it doesn't do any harm. The only thing that you're doing is wasting a little bit more water than you absolutely need to, which is not a huge deal. So again, we've got one connection to the garden hose, an RO water line. It's got a valve on it. This happens to be a needle valve. This valve with no line on it is nothing more than a sample port. So after we've used this thing a couple of times, run a couple of barrels through it, what we're going to do, just grab any kind of container. I'll use a pitcher. We're going to open this valve. We're going to fill this maybe half full. You just want to run enough water through there to make sure you get a representative sample. You just shut it off. I'm going to dump my water. Put enough in there that you can use your handheld TDS meter that comes with the unit and test your water quality. So I'm going to turn this off. In most situations, 90% of the time when you test that, it's going to be zero. That's when we start dialing this thing back. So I have it usually opened a couple of turns when customers receive it. You want to just slowly start turning that down, maybe a quarter turn at a time. You might even turn it all the way and feel where it seats, and then back it off from there. At least a half a turn or 3/4 of a turn. And then just let it go. Wash cars for a couple of weeks or a weekend, go through another barrel or two, and then come back and test it again. So we're just going to slowly dial that back until you don't ever want to go over 6 parts per million. So I run my system, I got it dialed in at 4 parts per million, and I haven't touched it in probably a year and a half. So this is not something you're going to have to do very often. Once you get going, again, these things is a fully automatic system. It'll fill itself, it'll shut itself off when it's full. When you start drawing from the container, it'll start filling itself and treating water again. You'll probably get 120 to 180 like SUV sized cars washed before you have to worry about replacing the polish cartridge. So this is the first thing that's going to go bad, and again, it'll probably be a year or two, usually in a 4-car household, before I hear from you. And these are selling for $80 right now to replace this. The RO membranes typically will go through 2 cycles, if you will. So the first time that your water, that you spend your polish cartridge, you probably just need to replace this. The second time you have to replace it, I would do a full recharge kit. Get the RO membrane also. And I'll go through in another video and do a complete change out on them. It's really simple. So on the hose, you got, this is how it's going to come, and just unwrap it, but you've got this end here obviously that's going to hook to the barrel. This end right here is actually, it comes like this. It's a quick disconnect. So what you want to do is pull the male piece off and screw that onto the back end of your pressure washer. Once you do, what I'll do is you'll have your hose hooked up, and I'll just crank open this valve, fill my 5-gallon wash bucket, and I'll just use my thumb on this and plug it, and then take it over and plug it into the back of the pressure washer and go. And when you're done, just kill this, disconnect it, drain your hose, and I keep mine rolled up. I've got it inside the garage. It's really convenient. Let's see. So when you start getting up to, you've washed cars all summer long, that's about the time you want to start worrying about your polish cartridge and checking it. And basically what I'm looking at is if I'm feeding it 4 parts per million from the RO membrane, and I'm getting 4 parts per million in my tank, that means that you exhausted the polish cartridge system. So just order one. It's not a huge deal. It'll take a few days to get one to you. Reinstall it. Don't worry about it. The water's not going to hurt your car. You're just not going to have the shine to it after you get done washing it. So anyway, that's all I can think of right now. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. I'm always around, and I love washing cars, so I'll help you any way I can.